Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, I am joined by Kevin Simmons and Reid Simmons from Planet DDS. Reid has been involved in orthodontic technology since the early 80s and played a key role in the development and growth of Orthotrac, one of the most widely used orthodontic software platform for decades. Kevin followed a similar path into the industry and now helps lead innovation at Planet DDS, the company behind Cloud9. Together, they've had a front row seat to the evolution of orthodontic technology and practice management. In this episode, we're talking about how the industry has changed, the role of technology partnerships and integration, and how AI may shape the next chapter in the orthodontic practices. Let's jump in. This episode was brought to you by ADEC. Are you thinking about opening an orthodontic practice? I know, it's a big decision, but saving 25% on the ADEC equipment you need to get started, that's an easy one. Because ADEC has a special program called Smart Start, designed to help you launch your first practice. You get up to 25% off your ADEC orthodontic equipment and furniture. You also get complimentary services to help you run and grow your business. And my favorite part, access to the Smart Start pricing for 2 whole years after you open your doors. That gives you flexibility to add more chairs as your cash flow grows. It's pretty smart. As an orthodontist, you care about getting all the little details right, and ADEC really got it right with this program. So if starting off with a big savings on ADEC equipment sounds good to you, the ADEC Smart Start is definitely worth a closer look. Just follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Kevin, Reid, I am so excited to have you guys on Hey Docs. Thanks for being here today with us.
Thank you for having us. Excited to be here.
Yes. I would love it if each of you would take just a moment and give us a little bit of history. I know between the two of you, we've got a lot of years. Your name, I would say most people know both of you and your name in the industry for sure. But if you guys would just take a moment, talk to us a little bit, tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into this, and what you are doing in the space right now.
Let's go in chronological order, Dad, if you don't mind.
Okay. I think I'm older if I'm your dad. Yes. Yes. I've been involved in orthodontic software for 44 years. Right out of college, I sold mainframe computers for NCR until 1981 came along and they wanted to promote me to Boston from Atlanta. And there were 2 problems. Well, 3 problems. One is Boston was a lot more expensive than Atlanta. 2, I'm a Southerner, not a Northerner. And number 3, the prime rate was almost 20. So I spent 3 months up there just till it was time to resign. And the first thing I said when I had my entire staff of 40 or 50 people in the room is, y'all talk funny, being from the South and they're from Boston. But I ended up leaving, opened a retail electronics store, rented movies before Blockbuster existed. And in the spring of 82, a guy I grew up with and had known since the 2nd grade is an orthodontist in Atlanta, and said the national convention's going to be here and people are talking about computers. I don't even know what one is or how to spell it. Will you go with me and ask questions? So I did. So we went to the World Congress Center in Atlanta. There were 12 companies demonstrating computers for orthodontists. They were dental computers, dental software companies, didn't even know what an orthodontist was. He had said his goal was for his receptionist not to have to use a pen for anything. So we asked, can you schedule on the computer? And they not only said no, why would you want to do it? And then one of them finally said, we could probably do it for you for $100,000 and it would take us a year. And this is in 1982 dollars. Can you print an appointment ticket? No. Can you file insurance claims? No. So the old story of writing down a business plan on a napkin was true. We went up to the mezzanine in the World Congress Center, wrote down some ideas. 4 months later, we were doing all those things in his office. So that was the birth of Orthotrac. And I've been doing it ever since. We were the first ones to obviously have a computer for dedicated orthodontists. We were the first ones to schedule on a computer, first ones to have the patients check themselves in and notify the clinic and things like that. Those were the early days, and we were using Unix. In 1994, when Windows came out, we released our Windows version. And it's hard to believe, but there are still a few offices using that original Unix software that was written in the early 1980s. Not many, but a few. They're not compliant with anything legal, but it works. In 2004, after Orthotrac had been sold to InfoCure, then PracticeWorks, then Kodak, and then Carestream, they weren't listening to me anymore. I left. Did a few other things, although I was talking to people in the industry constantly. I never missed an AO, so this one coming up will be my 43rd. And then Brian Delano, Lyle Miller, and I spent 18 months consulting with TOPS in 2009 and 2010. It didn't work out, and we moved on. They ended up founding Renew Digital, and in 2011, along with 4 other people that I had worked with before, and one customer who was an alpha site, we founded Cloud9. And Cloud9 was the first browser-based system. A competitor had been out before, but it wasn't browser-based. So you could use PCs, Macs, get to it from anywhere in the world. And at that first in 2011 in Chicago, we sold some very key people in the industry who are still on Cloud9 today. It was funny. The competitors at that meeting were making fun of us. We all had gray hair. And one of them said they called it Cloud9 because they're so old, they're almost in the cloud. And one other competitor that was run by an orthodontist said, being in the cloud is regressive. It's like putting brackets on every tooth. So by the next year, everybody had a cloud of some type, even if it was not a true cloud. Yeah. We now have been doing it for 15 years. We're in 4,000 locations, Kevin? And the smallest office I know about sees 26 patients a day. And the largest group we have has hundreds of locations. So we can definitely scale. And
how exciting.
That's my history.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, that's great. All right, Kevin, how do you follow up with that?
It's going to be tough, but it will be shorter. I'll say I grew up with Orthotrac as part of our family. It was a close company and a lot of tight relationships there. I'll shine a light. I think they're having a reunion in just a few months later this year. It's a group that remains close to this day. So I got my first job in orthodontics the summer of 1995 when I turned 16 and got a driver's license. And most of my friends were at entry-level jobs at fast food restaurants or drugstores, and they certainly were not taking it very serious. And I instead walk into the Orthotrac office in the warehouse on a Monday morning surrounded by full-grown adults. So I quickly learned that it was be professional and do what you're told. And I managed to work there for 3 straight summers. And I got to be a part of everything. It was definitely a different world where you're shipping computer systems and pre-printed appointment tickets and a lot of things that softwares don't deal with themselves today anymore. But for me, it was great to get to be a part of that Orthotrac family. And I was wanting to be in orthodontics in some capacity in my own professional life. I was 2 years a pre-dental major with the hopes of becoming an orthodontist. We may talk about this later, but I ran into organic chemistry and quickly changed my plans. But after 5 years in banking out of college, I ended up getting an opportunity with Cloud9 in 2011. I think they had just installed their fifth or sixth customer, and they brought me in the fall to be our first full-time customer support rep. And it was a big challenge right from the very beginning, and I quickly needed to become an expert on the product. And I'm proud to say I did get my feet on the ground, and I would claim to be the leading expert in Cloud9 even still today. 5 years in customer support led to 5 years in product management. So I was helping design features and rewrote the entire program on our HTML5 platform. And then after product, I've been in enterprise sales for the last 4 to 5 years, focused on selling Cloud9, most specifically to the larger organizations. So for me, it's been a variety of experience, but one thing literally led to another. And I think all of the experience has helped build me into hopefully a fairly unique person in the industry. And I'm 15 years into Cloud9, so I would definitely say I'm Cloud9 through and through.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's so fun. And how fun is that for the two of you to get to share this experience within our industry on the software side of it? A lot of doctors are able to do that from one generation to the next, either passing down to son or daughter or whatnot. And how fun to have it go on the software side of it for the two of you. So that's great. So I want to jump in and I want to talk about just this progression that we've seen with Cloud9. I've been in the industry over 30 years now, 20 years in my own business. And it is, Reid, going back to what you were saying, I can remember when I was working with the doctor who was on a DOS-based system and all of these things were just coming out. I still remember when we were hand scheduling, some of the offices were still writing in the big appointment books and all of the things, and just what impact bringing computers into our industry had. And gosh, I don't think any of us had an understanding of where we did, but we didn't, like where it was going and where we would be at today. And who knows where we're going from here. But I would love it if you guys can talk a little bit. I don't know who wants to field this question, but I think it's been pretty big that Cloud9 is now Planet DDS and you guys are combined. And I'd love if we can just talk a little bit about that. And because I think you're one of the first companies that also has now a really good partnership into the dental space, which I think is pretty progressive. And we've got a lot of our docs that look at multi-specialty practices and just that hurdle that's always there. And how do we manage different softwares and things that don't work well together? So if you guys want to talk about that a little bit and just what the vision and the technology that's driving that.
I'll take that if I may, and I'll go back a half step just to the history of Cloud9. So Cloud9 was privately owned until 2019. We were then owned by a private equity firm for roughly 4 years before we were sold at the beginning of 2023 to Planet DDS. And I was part of that journey and hopefully helping the leadership teams throughout it. But I will say we literally could not have landed in a better place with Planet DDS. Cloud9 was fully focused on cloud-based practice management software, and we landed with Planet DDS, who is fully focused on cloud-based dental practice management software. So I would say we are over 3 years into that joint journey together, and the multi-specialty market was already blossoming even before then, but it seems to be accelerating even further. Shameless sales pitch that we've got Denticon as cloud-based dental software, working closely with Cloud9 as cloud-based ortho software. I'll admit the integration is fairly light today, but we are still one party fully focused on enterprise software and the cloud-based software, and the integration is a big focus of our roadmap over the next few years. And we are even building a joint platform where a user can go and see the scheduling and the financials and everything they need to see for that single patient record across multiple specialties, including peds and GP and ortho to start.
Yeah, to me, I think this is so exciting because I have so many doctors that come to me as startups and their vision is a multi-specialty practice. And I think it's always been difficult to bridge the gap, especially between pediatric and orthodontic. And I know even before you guys sold, you were really starting to lean into, okay, can we work pediatric and ortho in the same program? And so I think it's been really great to see a company that's embracing what does that look like, not just how well can we be in the ortho space, but for our practices that want to want to have more than just the one specialty, how can we lean in, even if it's not completely fully integrated, just have the synergy to work between different companies where we know that there's a forward focus on how does it all work together, understanding that they are very individual entities and specialties. We all know that ortho is ortho. That's very different than the other specialties out there.
Yes, absolutely. And especially with the peds into ortho, there's that natural harmony of often it's the same patients going from one to the other, often on the same day in the same physical location. We're definitely trying to meet the needs of those organizations. I will definitely plug that we are still ortho focused and dental focused with each software independently too. But I will say the amount of reinvestment in our products is very noticeable with Planet DDS. And we even overhauled our entire product leadership team last year. And to see the talent and the vision and the direction that they're pointing us in is very encouraging.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk a little bit, because we all have a lot of years in this industry. Let's talk about some of those. Reid, you alluded to some of this, but just some of these big shifts that we've seen. And let's talk about, 2010 forward, the last 16 years or so, some of these big shifts that we're seeing in our industry. I know we've seen a real uprise in OSOs, multi-specialty practices. We were just talking about that. Maybe even just some of the changes that I think our docs are coming to the table saying, I have these different expectations that I might have had from my vendors of the past or whatnot. Do you guys want to, I don't know who wants to field that one, but just talk about that a little bit?
Why don't you take that at first?
The first change since 2010 is we didn't exist in 2010. So there was no cloud. But yeah, they've been, in the early days of Orthotrac, we were trying to convince a doctor that he needed a computer. And then once the cloud came along, we switched, and we had to convince him that he didn't need a physical computer in the office, at least not a server. And that was a shift we had to take. We went from single doctors to two doctors to maybe 4 or 5 together to hundreds of them together as part of OSOs as you went forward. And somewhat in the same time frame, we switched to aligners, and there was a whole bunch of things going on in the industry itself, not just to do with computers over those years. And you mentioned earlier about children of doctors coming in and joining the practice. That didn't happen in the 80s. And now it's amazing how many have. There are a lot where I sold the dad something back in the 80s and then sold the son Cloud9 a few years ago. But the technology has really changed with what they can do, what tools they're using. They can get to it from home. You've got a snow day. The staff can stay at home in their pajamas and reschedule everybody. Now, if we can ever get to a point where you can remotely change brackets or fix wires or do anything like that, would be great. But from a technology standpoint, and then just the organization of the practices, a lot have changed. And then these third parties that can provide integrations that I know we're going to talk about later, a lot of them came along after 2010. And it's been a great thing for the industry and just makes the doc's life easier. Kevin, I'm sure you can add to that.
By taking us in a slightly different direction, yes, I can add to that. I think the biggest change that I see is, and you touched on it, Jill, is the independent practice versus the consolidated OSO large organizations. My primary focus, and I make a living on enterprise sales, but I'll be the first one to tell you, never underestimate and always respect the ability of an orthodontist to graduate from school, go into business for him or herself, and be as successful as they want to be. So I say that often, that there is always going to be that element, and that's why they go to all of the school and take all the time to get as far as they go. But certainly consolidation is a big thing, and especially when you're talking to those organizations directly, you see the picture of the benefits of graduate from school, but come to a high-paying job with reliability and don't have the overhead and burden of being a business owner. I will tell you, it's been interesting talking to some of our longtime customers who are now parents of young orthodontists. And it does seem to be a majority of them are going in that enterprise mindset of, I want to come out of school, I want to go to work, and I want to leave work at work. But at the same time, there's definitely still an element of that next generation wanting to take the reins of a business and be a full-fledged business owner as well. It's interesting to observe, and I try to ask more questions and get more insight whenever I'm talking to somebody that's directly involved with that type of situation.
Yeah. And I can tell you from what I see too, because I do a lot, my primary focus is on that startup and those doctors that are in that 8 years and younger. And whether it's a startup or an acquisition, we're seeing that. And one of the big shifts that I've really seen is, which I don't believe in, Reid, you could maybe speak to this, having many more years even than I have in the industry, is I think that there is this point now where, good or bad, where practices, if they're about a 3 million plus practice or bigger, it becomes very difficult. They may be very successful and they may be very happy at that point. There's this tipping point of 3.5 plus. It's going to be really difficult for them to sell individually. And I think this is such a interesting dynamic that I don't think that a lot of doctors saw coming down the road 25 years ago, 30 years ago, where they would think, man, I'm working so hard, I'm doing so well. And then they get to the end where they're starting to think about, what is my exit strategy? And it's very easy to exit when you've got a 2 million or less practice. You have to be a lot more strategic when you have maybe a couple locations, different things like that. And to your point, Kevin, about just seeing this emerge of OSOs and whatnot, I think that with the technology that we've seen, it has allowed practices to get much bigger. There's been repeatable systems. We're starting to see, like you said, where you can become part of a group and that burden of running a practice gets to be distributed amongst the masses. And you've got these controllers or you've got these operators that are helping manage the practices, where a doc could literally, if they want, show up, do their job and leave. And from what I remember when I was getting into it, maybe I just wasn't aware enough 30 plus years ago, that just wasn't, it seemed like it was, you had a practice, you sold your practice. You had a practice, you sold your practice. And it's just such a different dynamic now, I think.
Yeah, and one observation I see working with so many enterprise organizations too is I think people are realizing they should diversify and try to partner with doctors at various stages of the career, as opposed to just going to the people that are in twilight phase with their practices. But at the same time, you see a mix of it all, and the cliche is, when you've met one OSO or DSO, you've met one OSO or DSO. I can confirm that is true.
That's great. I haven't heard that yet, but that's a good one. That's a good one.
And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey, docs. If your new patient follow-up depends on someone remembering, it's leaking revenue. Greyfinch automates new patient follow-up, texts and emails go out automatically, and your treatment coordinator just checks their tasks list to see what needs a quick call or a more personalized message. That is one of the many reasons I recommend everyone take a look at Greyfinch. It isn't just a follow-up tool, it's a complete practice management software built to help you grow and scale. Stop leaking revenue and get $500 off your startup fee with the Jill Allen special at greyfinch.com/Jill Allen. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
So let's talk about the hot topic. I don't think you can go to a conference and not hear the word AI, or even within software, API ecosystems, things like that. Let's talk a little bit about that, and really, what does that mean? How are you guys embracing that? What does that mean to the user when they're interfacing with both of those terms in their practices?
I will answer that with tangible plans where there are hands on the keyboard, as our product leader would say. AI for us in orthodontics are going to start with AI helping to fill your schedule, making phone calls to people who are active in treatment but do not have that future appointment. Obviously, keeping them on track is important across the board. And I will say this too. I thought of it earlier, Jill, when you mentioned the transition from paper charts to having keyboards and computers chairside, is imagine not having to put your hands on the keyboard. Imagine being able to speak into a microphone, and it's going to be able to put the right information into the right fields. Yeah. I was actually in a meeting yesterday about starting the design on that work too. AI, I think the biggest challenge is it can mean 1,000 different things, and people don't always use the term appropriately, but those are two tangible ways that we're bringing AI into the fold here.
I didn't know. Reid, did you want to comment on that as you've been watching it?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a simplified version of AI. I had something in the late 80s called the Suspicious Balance Report. And what it did is similar to what AI would be capable of doing today. It would go through every account, see if there were gaps, see if there were people who by mistake or on purpose, the staff had delayed their payments for 4 years and they would actually be out of treatment before the payment started, if there were too many adjustments and things like that. And then one or two of our competitors actually made some improvements to it after that. But the one that was in the original Orthotrac, Paul Zalke, the noted collections and financial consultant, called it the finest anti-theft tool ever made. And so that was a simplified.
I just need to clarify for our own
for you today.
And that's where I'm going. I need to clarify for our own family legacy. Are you claiming you started AI? Is that what we're going with? Or you were ahead of AI?
Not at all. I'm just describing a simple version
I would have gone with it.
Of what an automated concept like AI could do to, no, I didn't invent the internet, but what an automated concept could do to help a practice in seconds instead of.
Yeah. I don't know, Reid, that was a softball right there for you. You should say, yes, of course I claimed that AI product. But no, I think that is exactly where I think it's so much fun to see. And Kevin, to your point, we think about AI maybe very generically and just, it's going to help me write better email responses, or it's going to help me come up with an SOP, or it's going to this, that, or the other. But I love what you're talking about when we think about even just AI helping us with transcription. I can remember even within my industry, within my own business, when I first started, I was charting just like ortho doctors in an office. I'd meet with the client and I would chart everything, or my team would stand outside the door and handwrite everything that I was talking about because I was called to call. And then eventually we got to a point where, we can record this and I can pay somebody to transcribe. And now all of a sudden I've got Fathom that literally can record it and then go back and pull out all the highlights and send. Yep. And it's so amazing. And when we think about that on the orthodontic side, and we think about, I know, Kevin, I'm so excited to hear you guys are developing this, because I know that there are companies out there that are starting to, where doctors can wear a microphone on their scrub top, and it's going to record their whole conversation, and they can just walk out of the room. It transcribes it all for them. And now they don't even have to rewrite their treatment plans anymore. It's so exciting to see where we're going and what's happening. And then to have software that's going to be able to support what is coming at us and just the forward thinking of companies. Gosh, it gets me excited.
Yes. And we're
So-
just scratching the surface too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So let's talk about as far as looking ahead and what are you guys seeing as I just talked about a few, but some points that you're thinking, oh, we need to really be paying attention to, or we're really going to be focusing in on that doctors should be thinking about in their practices in the future.
I keep going first, and I apologize, Dad, but we'll take that one too. I want to plug that our part of our product leadership coming in last year was also to renew our customer focus. So we have at least 5, if not more, customer advisory boards, one for Denticon, one for Cloud9, one for them together, and on down the line, so that we have key customer profiles giving us direct input on a monthly basis when those boards meet with each other. We've also recently in Cloud9 launched a customer facing enhancement list so they can go to the help menu and then give feedback. You can look at other people's enhancement requests and add input and upvote them. This is something I wish we could go back in time 5 years ago and have when I was in charge of product. Just very valuable to have things customer driven. They are the ones in the offices using these features. To me, they will always know best as to what things you can do to make their lives easier. I think roadmap is always going to have big boulders, as we call them, where it's a big new feature, a big new product. Often you're going to have to pay more money for it and things like that. But I think there are enhancements to the actual workflows and the existing products or features. There's always room for improvements there. And I'm happy that we're getting that feedback directly from customers. We've still got to prove it and get the features out there, but I am confident we are pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's great. Reid, I want to circle back to something you said a little bit earlier. And I'm going to say, since you were one of the first to bring this to our industry, I'm going to lob a big softball at you, but I'm wondering if you can just talk to us just a little bit in the event that one of my listeners doesn't really have an understanding of what it means to be truly cloud-based versus application-based, because I think this is a really key piece that in our industry right now, I feel like a lot of people throw that terminology around, but don't maybe really understand what a big shift that was for us to say, hey, you don't have to have this really expensive, massive server in your office that you're going to have to replace every 5 years. And you're not going to have to do some of that. I'm wondering if you could talk about really truly what that meant to our industry and what that means to us now when practices, because there's still a lot of software out there that is still based server wise, and maybe where that maybe put some roadblocks into practices that if they're completely with a cloud-based system, they may not have some of those roadblocks.
Going back many years, when an office a doctor would have a second office, you had to have T1 lines connecting, which were very expensive. You had to have expensive modems on each end. I remember a pair being $10,000. And then when deregulation came along, and it used to be $1 a mile to connect, people were paying hundreds and even $1,000 to connect 2 offices. There was an office, ironically, in Denver that had 3 locations on Orthotrac and was having all sorts of trouble. He was paying, between his IT guys, his phone lines, and his modems, he was paying $3,000 a month. We switched him to Cloud9, and all he was paying was $70 a month for each location to have an internet connection. Because with a browser-based cloud, everybody just connects to the internet and then can talk to each other through the internet because the data is up in the cloud. You're not physically connecting Office A to Office B, but you can communicate between the two. And another example I use all the time about how we are different by being browser-based. You could go to and this has happened, you could go to the AO or a meeting or be skiing in Switzerland and get a call from the office and walk to any computer anywhere that could get on the internet. And in some cases, you can use your phone or iPad, but let's say you've got to look at 3D x-rays, you can, or normal x-rays or something like that. You can connect to the cloud and look at your data and tell the staff member that's working that day what to do. So it's a huge game changer that you don't have to be physically connected to something that is in your office. And I also remember when hurricanes would hit Florida in the old days, doctors or
Yes.
staff would have to label every cable and every connection on the back of the computer and then pack it all up in their car and take it out of there. And you don't have to do that anymore. You just leave. We had an office in Mobile early on in the Cloud9 days, had a break-in and they stole all his computers. So he was the first one in the office. He called the staff, told them to bring their personal computers in for the morning. They got through the morning. He went to Best Buy at lunch, bought all new ones, and they were running on those that afternoon. It is very simple when you're
Amazing.
cloud-based because you're free. You're free.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I don't know, Kevin, if you want to add to that, but I think that this has just been, in my opinion, such a game changer, and especially with so many of our younger doctors that are Mac users, to not have to think about what, if you're a native on a Mac or you're a native on a PC, it doesn't matter. You can use either or have them both in your practice. And I think how freeing is that nowadays to not be relegated to also a certain type of computer because we can do that.
Yes.
So I'll add respectfully to the competition that, Reid mentioned in 2011, we were laughed out of the AAO building. In 2012, everybody was announcing their cloud solution. I will say, even to this day, somebody's cloud solution just means you don't have to go buy a server and put it in your office. So that is where you get into the intricacies of what truly is cloud and what is not. And I will just say Cloud9 is one of very few that we would call true cloud, in that it can be a brand new computer. You get it on the internet and pull up in a browser. You can go directly into everything immediately from there. So to me, that is the litmus test of true cloud. And there are only a couple of us out there. And we were first.
Yeah, you're right. And we're going to stake that claim. That's great. I think of the astronauts on the moon. We did it. We get to claim that. As we look ahead at our orthodontic practices and when they're thinking about technology, because all of our young docs, all the docs that I'm working with, everybody that's listening, that they are dialed in. They want technology. They want efficiencies in their practice. They are not scared to use a computer. Reid, we do not have to worry about that anymore with our team members or our docs. If anything, they're like, why isn't this here yet? I see this in the other industries. How come we don't have this here yet? And I'm wondering if between the two of you, if somebody wants to take this, what do you think Cloud9, maybe you can talk a little bit more about any technology investments that they are thinking about or preparing for the future to just continue to help push this technology wave forward, because it's definitely not stopping. We haven't been like, we accomplished this and we're stopping right here. We know, you guys know, it's going to continue to evolve till we're all out of this industry, and it'll still continue. Where are you thinking those investments are coming next? I guess if you were to call out, what does the next 5 years look like? I don't know.
As far as big investments, we've touched on them. I think some AI tools, developing features that just make sense for a practice management software to be owning and doing. And then, of course, the growth of the multi-specialty market and the linkage between Cloud9 and Denticon and Planet DDS being at the forefront of there. I will take it back into the minutia just a bit and kind of call back to the customer advisory boards that I mentioned. To me, there is always room for feature enhancements, big and small. And that is one thing that I will continue to be a proponent for, is let's do small things that go a big way towards making customers' lives easier. So that doesn't necessarily appeal directly to the prospective upcoming doctors that we're talking about. But I think by reputation as a company that listens to your customers and reinvests in your products and services, I think that's the best way to be appealing to the people when they enter the market.
Yeah, I think that's great. Reid, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and it's not definitely technology, but it's things offices need to do always. And I'm going to go back to one story about how important consultants are. I did not know what an orthodontic consultant was until my 5th customer on Orthotrac. And I got a call from this lady in a gravelly voice. What in the hell have you done to this office? Excuse me? He doesn't need a computer. And I explained a few things. And then she said, okay, tell me how I can find out who the active patients are. I said, put in 55, 29, 43 and print the report. She said, oh, how can I find out how much money they owe? Put in 55, 16, 19. Oh, she said, all right, I'll get you. Tell me everybody who's over ECD. I said, will you explain to me ECD? Estimated completion date when they're supposed to be through. I said, ma'am, bless her heart, she's not with us anymore. I said, ma'am, this is the first I've heard of it. I'll have it for you by tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I did.
Awesome. That's
She
awesome.
became our best salesman for the next 3 years because she believed in it. Second, you can't just get trained for 2 or 3 days when you're switching or adding a computer. The staff needs constant training. You can get it by videos that Cloud9 has. You can get it by bringing in a consultant. You can get it by going to meetings like Orbit. You can get it by going to class, although it's not software specific for your software. You can get it by going to the O and the fall meetings and so forth. But you have to constantly keep up with what's going on and how to use it properly. And roundtables at meetings by people like you, a treatment coordinator. You have a round table of treatment coordinators and you just talk about things are an excellent way to do that. And you don't have to worry about people updating their software anymore since we update it every month and you don't have to do anything about it. But I remember also back in the Orthotrac days when we would send out tapes every 3 or 4 months. I went in to visit one office up in Kentucky and there was a stack of updates that high. They had not done a single update in 3 years. So things that were fixed or things that were improved, they may have been asking for a feature that we did 2 years ago and they already had it, but it was sitting on that tape on their desk. Yeah. So they have to stay involved with the vendor and with the concepts, particularly with AI coming along. Well, how's the best way to do this? Or how's the best way to do that? And so get involved with get consultants involved in your practice and attend educational sessions when they're available to you. Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, I could not echo that more. And I think just as to any docs that are listening, I think being able to pour into your team and the training that they have, they're Cloud9 yes. and many other softwares too, they are so robust in what they can do. And I think most of the time, most teams use about 10% of the entire software because of lack of training. They just, it's like telephone. One person got trained really well, and then you have a team member turn around and there was a little bit of telephone on how you use it. And maybe I don't have time to go back and watch the video or do the training. And gosh, if you guys can just really tap into the potential of what's out there and what's at your fingertips and then what's coming and stay on top of that. It is amazing. From a consultant side, it's amazing what we can do. But gosh, we have very powerful systems at our fingertips with truly, Reid, you talk about all the reports. As a consultant, there are ones that we want, but they're the ones that tell us the lifeblood of what's happening in a practice. And for any business owner, doesn't matter what industry we're in, if we don't understand the numbers, we don't understand how to get to the data, we cannot make good decisions about our practice. Having a software like Cloud9 that can, get us things instantaneously right at our fingertips is really key to how well and successful I believe practices will be as they're going through their journey.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, challenge the status quo. I think the fact that there are still 3,000 plus locations using Orthotrac is a sign that there are people that, yes, they're being successful, and I don't judge that, but start asking what else is out there, and you're going to find that there are things that'll make your lives easier. Whether you come to us or go somewhere else, there are ways to add better tools and make your jobs easier.
Yeah. It's always hard. I love having conversations like this because I feel like it's like we're just hanging out, all talking about things that we love to talk about. And I know we could go on for hours, but we are going to have to wrap this up. So if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about Planet DDS, they want to connect with you guys, they want to maybe just even find out, how can I use this better? How can I be better at what I'm doing? What's going to be the best way that they can reach out if they want to find out more?
We've been here today shining the light on Cloud9 since that is Reid and I's history, but I would encourage people to go to planetdds.com and not only learn about Cloud9 as a solution for orthodontics, but we've got Denticon for dentistry and pediatric dentistry. Yes. We've got Apteryx for imaging. That would be the best place to go. And I know Reid won't mind this. Reid.Simmons at planetdds.com and Kevin.Simmons at planetdds.com. Those are two ways that you reach out to either of us and we'll either help you or get you into the right hands quickly.
Yeah, that's
there is
great.
a schedule a demo button on the Cloud9 site, and if they could sign up there, and there's a box where you can just type things in. If you type either one of our names, we'll try to be the ones to follow up.
Perfect. I love that. I love that. And then you can be like, I've already seen their faces and I've already heard their voices, so I know who I'm talking with. That'll be great. All right, guys. So the way I like to finish this up is I like to finish us with the speed round. So maybe I'll just let you guys alternate, one take one question, one take another as we go. So first question I'm going to ask, and I'll let you guys decide who wants to take it. What is one business trend you think more people should be paying attention to?
I will take that. So we've talked about it a few times, but again, the multi-specialty market, even if you only have an interest in orthodontics, obviously pediatric dentistry and other specialties can be ways that you get a lot of patient opportunities from. So I would say keep an eye, especially on us, as that market develops.
All right. I love that. All right, Reid, I'm going to shoot this one just to you. What is the most unexpected lesson you learned in your career?
The first business I ran, I went 6 months, and this would apply to your startups. I went the first six months without knowing anything about having to make the tax deposits into the federal and state accounts. So I had some penalties I had to pay. But listening to your customers and doing your best to fulfill their needs, and if you can't do it, tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one. All right, Kevin, how about this one for you? What is one industry challenge you think will shape the future of our work?
I'm in enterprise sales of orthodontic software, and I've mentioned multi-specialty market a few times. So I would say there is no true multi-specialty software out there today. I would say we are the closest, and we are going to do everything we can to stay ahead. But certainly that market and that product is certainly going to impact my work directly.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. All right. And Reid, we'll finish up with you. If you had, this is a good one. If you had one unlimited resources and you could bring one big idea to life, what would that be? Money wasn't an issue. You could just do whatever you wanted.
Wow. I have no idea. I haven't thought about that.
I will take it, and I'm biased because I used to be head of product for Cloud9, but I would say a design your own UI feature. So many different people have so many different opinions on what it should look like and how it should work. If unlimited resources, then damn it, we're going to let you build your perfect workflow, your perfect appearance, and only see the things you want to see and ignore everything else. How about that?
I love that. I love that.
There you go.
Don't we
Good
wish
one,
we all
Kevin.
had... We all had unlimited resources. Yeah.
Yes.
I suspect there'll be something coming in the future.
I'm working on it now.
Yeah. Guys, it's been such a pleasure having you on Hey Docs. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the years, Reid, that you have, what you've been able to do in our industry. And Kevin, I love it that you're just like right along, stepping right in and just continuing to bring that forward. So thank you guys for being here today.
And thank you, Jill. I think orthodontics is special to all of us, and you certainly have your contributions and your hand in that too. So thank you for having us very much.
Absolutely. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. Till next time.
Take care.